And court does call the case of the people versus Shonda Jefferson.
Caitlin Kirby on behalf of the people.
Sylvana Reed, Assistant Public Defender with and on behalf of Ms. Jefferson. Jefferson, could you state your name for the record?
Good morning, Shonda Jefferson.
And Your Honor, this is the date and time set for a bench trial. The people are ready to proceed, and I believe that that's what defense wants to do as well.
All right, very good. All right. Opening statements.
I would waive opening, Your Honor.
Any objection to the people waiving opening statement?
No objection.
All right. Would you like to give an opening statement or reserve?
I will. I'll be brief. I just
All right.
wanted to share with the court that Ms. Jefferson is a mother, a grandmother, and someone who's been working with children in the school system since 1998. She's someone who cares deeply about children and hopes to continue being able to work with children for the rest of her career. She has no criminal history, has never had any trouble before this case throughout her more than 20 years of career work. I hope that you will see today that she never intended to harm anybody, and it's very saddened by the fact that the situation has resulted in any negative outcomes for him.
All right, very good. And I'll pardon you for keeping your seat and addressing the court. You may call your first witness.
Your Honor, the people would call Sherry Henry on.
And please come forward to be sworn.
Raise your right hand. Swear affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. Want to take your seat, state your first and last name and spell it for the record.
Charlotte Henry, C-G-R-Y-L, last name Henry, H-E-N-R-I-O-N.
All right, you may inquire.
Thank you. Ms. Henrian, where are you employed?
Durham School Services,
And what is your job there?
safety supervisor.
And what does that entail?
A lot of things, monitoring the driver, keeping everybody in compliance, hiring new drivers, training drivers,
And when you say drivers, what kind of drivers?
school bus drivers.
And how long have you been employed there?
With Durham since 2008, August of 2016.
And are you familiar with a Roshonda Jefferson? And do you see her in the courtroom today? Okay, and can you identify something that she is wearing, please?
Sure.
Okay, and let the record reflect that this witness identified the defendant as Roshonda Jefferson.
Without objection, record shall so reflect.
Thank you. And how do you know her?
She was one of our monitors.
And what does that mean?
She was a bus aide taking care of children on the bus.
And what is their job duties?
Make sure that the kids are seated, stay safe, tend to, if they need anything on the bus, help the driver.
And are they given certain instructions on how to care for the children or monitor the children? And where are those written?
Usually, there's a routing department will tell them, we give them special needs training, that's a classroom set.
And do they have any other information given to them when a student is on the bus?
Yeah, if there's any information, the routing department will get that with them, or it'll be on the route sheets.
Okay, and so what kind of information would you give for a specific child or the aide?
Anything that they would need, if they needed to be sat by themselves, if they needed to be in the front, in the back, if they have allergies, there's all kinds of stuff.
Okay, and does this sheet also include how you would restrain a child or how you would handle a child getting upset on the bus?
It would say on the route sheet whether they had to be in a star seat or a harness. It would have that next to their name and their star.
Okay, and what is a star seat?
It's a 5-point seat that they go in that would keep them restrained. It keeps them in their seat.
Okay, and can you explain how it keeps them in their seat?
It's hooked to the back of the seat. Harnesses would come around them, or the star seats, they're buckled in, similar to a car seat.
Okay. And is it typical for that to be written clearly next to a child's name?
Yes.
And if a child does need that kind of restraint, when would that restraint come into place?
When the student rides on the bus and when the driver and monitor is notified.
Okay, and so would a child getting on the bus be immediately put in a star restraint if that's what they needed?
Yes, if it's on their IEP, then they would immediately be put in it.
And what is a IEP?
It's an individualized education plan.
Fine.
And so if it's on their IEP that they use a star restraint, when they first get on the bus, they would immediately be put in a star restraint? Is there any situation where a child would just be put in a star restraint in the middle of a bus ride?
No, they have to be secured right when they get on the bus.
And is it normal for if it's written on the IEP to have a star restraint? Is the star restraint already on the seat, or is it put on the seat before the child gets on the bus?
No, it would already be on the seat.
And is it your job to monitor if children are being put in a restraint or how they are put in the bus?
No, not really. We give them the training. If they have problems, they would come to myself or a trainer just to make sure that they're being hooked up the right way.
And are you familiar with December 14th of 2021? Are you familiar with that date?
Yes.
And why are you familiar with that date?
That was the day, I believe, that the district wanted us to watch a video.
Okay, and what kind of video was that?
It was a video of a driver and monitor transporting a student that was being put into a restraint.
And were they being put into the restraint when they were getting on the bus, or?
No, it was during the bus ride.
And like you testified earlier, that's not typical to you? And what else did you see on the video?
I remember it's been a while since I've seen the video. I remember the driver going to the back of the bus, bringing the child up front to the seat, and then Roshonda took over, trying to get the child into a restraint.
And do you know, after looking at this video and reviewing it, do you know where the bus was at this time? If it was in what city or township it was in?
I do not remember.
Okay.
I don't remember the stop location.
And do you know what county it was in?
Washington, I believe.
And why were you asked to watch this video? Do you know?
The school district had called over and spoke with Charlie Bug, our operations supervisor, and wanted to review the video because of a complaint that they had.
And are you familiar with a Jay Swookie?
That was a student that was being put into harness.
And did you see his IEP?
No, I didn't.
And while at the time that you were watching the video for the complaint, do you recall what the actual complaint was?
No, we weren't told.
Okay. And so you were just told to watch the video is what you stated?
Charlie Bug was told to pull the video and to look at a couple days, but they didn't tell him why. So he watched it, and then I believe he sent, Liz Margolis came down to watch the video.
And at that time was when you were watching the video as well?
Yes.
And is it standard for all the aides and all the drivers to know the IEPs of each and every student on the bus?
No, they wouldn't, they don't have access to the IEPs. The only thing they would have access to is whatever would be on the route sheet or what they were told.
And has there ever been a circumstance to your knowledge where they were told something different than was on the route sheet?
That I don't recall.
And how many children are usually on a bus?
That could depend. A special needs bus, there could be one, there could be 5, 6. If they're on a larger bus, there could be more.
Okay. And Ms. Weidling, I'm gonna pull something up on my laptop.
And while you do that, I just want to make sure I'm understanding something. The star seat, is there going to be a star seat on every bus? Okay, so how does, well, let me ask it this way, I'm sorry. If the star seat is not on every bus, what has to happen for the star seat to be there in the first place?
There has to be a student that rides that bus that it's in their IEPs that it says they need a star seat.
Got it. And so to your knowledge, on this bus, on this occasion, was there a student that should have or may have had to have a star seat?
On a route,
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Okay,
Could have been on a route. For that one.
gotcha. Okay, I get it. So if the bus then goes to a second route, then the star seat may be on there during the travel on the first route because it's going to be needed for the second.
Correct.
Got it. Great. Just as you do that, I now have my defendant back.
Well, we can pause if you want.
Yes, let's pause this for a moment. Let me also ask, this video, and I don't mind seeing it because I would have to see it, but we are broadcasting, and I want to make sure that, I don't know if there's the face of the child.
You can't really make out his face.
Good enough.
The
Good enough.
quality is not great.
All right. Okay, I'll briefly pause on this matter. You ready? We are then back on the record in the case of the People versus Jefferson.
And do you recognize, can you see the screen on your screen in front of you?
Hold on one moment. The individual that may not be the subject of this case, but is that a minor in the very front part of that?
Yeah.
The 14-day report for County of Washington, State of Michigan.
You may be seated. We're back on the record in the case of People versus Shonda Jefferson. In this matter, the court has heard this case, and really the issue becomes the issue of posing or causing an unreasonable risk of harm or physical injury to a child. It isn't really the issue of whether or not the child was injured or anything along those lines. Was something done that posed an unreasonable risk of harm to the child? As I was thinking back through the video, a number of things occurred. And as the court was considering its decision, one thing that I realized is, I think in dealing with children is I'm listening to the protocols. The reality is you can have all protocols in place that you want. But once something starts to occur, some of those don't quite come into play. And so there may be some leeway in terms of that. So in terms of what the child was doing initially, I personally and may have issues with what was transpiring at that point. But then, and this is really the legal analysis, the defendant's behavior and what the defendant did begins to cross the line. And there are really 3 points at which it crosses the line. The first point at which it crosses the line is placing the child in that seat at all. without some justification as to why that should be done. This child could have been absolutely out of control. There's something else to do. You can't just decide, I'm gonna basically strap a child down when the policy doesn't call for it. So that's the one thing. But then the manner in which the defendant went about implementing that violation of policy also causes a problem. There are two swings that I don't, in looking at the video, don't believe were defensive maneuvers on the defendant's part to block or stop something. One occurs as the child goes into the seat. There is a swing toward the child. There is then also one coming over the back. I can't say because of our angle that contact wasn't being, or that contact was made, or that any harm, but to even raise your hand in that fashion and swing in that fashion is inappropriate. But really by virtue, so those are really the 3 points. By virtue of placing the child in the seat, the manner in which the child was placed in the seat, this court does believe that the people have sustained their burden of showing that the defendant did indeed violate the statute and did cause an unreasonable risk of harm to this minor child. And so for those reasons, the court would find that the defendant is guilty of child abuse in the 4th degree. Defendant is referred to probation for a pre-sentence investigation and report. Sentencing in this matter will be August 9th, 2023, 9 a.m. That will be via Zoom. And ma'am, what I would suggest that you do is probation is right down the hallway. Stop there before you leave the building so that they can get you everything. Okay? Thank you, folks. Bond will continue.
Thank you.
14A stands adjourned.